And very carefully try and pry this up. Nah, it just popped out nice and easily. Kind of mashing my fingers around the motor, in between the motor and the hull, and trying to get this front edge to start lifting. Oh, there we go. She popped. So now we've got to be very careful, and I'll try and keep popping that along the edge, gently pulling. I'm pushing with my thumb on the outside and on my thumb on the inside of the hull so I don't crack or break that plastic. So I started back here, just pushing and prying, and I got it pried all the way to the very back, right back to the transom on the boat back here. Once I was at that point, then it's just a matter of gently working the jet unit sideways, and I pried it out of the opening at the back. Once I'm done peeling this stuff off, look at that, I'm gonna have a nice clean new looking jet unit. The main reason I like to remove the jet unit from the boat is it's so much easier to bolt your new motor on and get the original one off the jet unit. Oh, my hands are actually pretty big, so that cutout doesn't leave me a lot of room to sit there and fidget with a screwdriver or whatever to unbolt the motor. So for me, I find it just as easy just to rip the jet unit out, and I'll put a nice heavy bead of silicone around here and around here, and I'll just silicone the crap out of it and put it back in the boat. So I just went modestly with the motor choice. Because of funds, I can't really afford right now to go out and spend big bucks on a really nice motor and nice setup. This one was about the cheapest I could find. It's a little bit smaller than the stock motor. The stock motor 390, I believe it is about a 28 millimeter by like 40 or something like that, 45. This one's 24 by 35, 4500 kV, and it should still get my boat going pretty darn good. So for water cooling, I did have some little bits of tubing kicking around, so I'm going to try and make them do. So I'm just using bits and pieces of whatever I can find for now, just to get the boat going, and eventually I'll pick up a long tube and cover the whole motor. But there's that'll be the exit water line, and the input will be here, and I put a small piece connecting the two little coils together. Should be good. So I'm just going to use a couple of poppet rivets for my water pickup, and maybe even the water exit, just to give it a little finished look. So the first thing you got to do is find a suitable size poppet rivet that the tubing will fit over nice and snug, so you get a good watertight seal. And then it's just a matter of knocking the pins out using a 3/32 drill bit, just ever so slightly. Want to enlarge the hole a bit. Tighten it down. There we go. So to give it more of a water scoop action, I'm just going to line up my knife with the side of the hole and drag it out and make a line. I'll go just ever so slightly on an angle, and then I'm just going to tickle that with the so now I just have to grind down the front of the poppet rivet to make it act like a water scoop without really disturbing the water flow that's going through the jet unit, through the stator. Then with my half round file, I can just give it a little quick touch up Make sure it's relatively smooth. So what we gotta do is just a little modification, like I said, slightly beveling it upwards to help it seat in the stator. And I'm just gonna crazy glue that in. So one step I forgot to do was to lock this in my drill and actually file down the diameter just a little bit smaller than it is, and take off maybe about 1 millimeter off the outside diameter. Okay, so got the hole drilled out, and you'll notice if you try to put this through, it's going to be a really tight squeeze. The head's actually still a little bit thicker, or wider I should say, than the opening here. So what I'm going to do is, this screwdriver is a really tight fit. It just barely fits in there. I'm going to shove that through the hole this way. I'm going to stick the scoop on the end, and the screwdriver is going to help assist. You want to get the edge just to start coming through the hole, like so. Now you're going to push the nipple in, forcing it. Basically forcing it. I still got a little gap down here to go, and it's touching up top. So what I want to do is just gently force it and make the top end pop inside, pushing it in and kind of pulling back a little bit, nice and gently back, until there it goes, till it pops in. Bingo. So I've turned the water scoop. You want the low end on this side and the high end facing towards the back side, so it catches some of the water that's going through the stator. And this little unit, because it's beveled on top, like the round shape of it, it doesn't really disturb the water flow going through the stator. So I just have to crazy glue that in place, and she will be done. Spread the crazy glue around. Just going to put the screwdriver in there and push down a little bit and make sure it's right flat. Good. Good, good. That's how we want it. Okay, so I drilled out the water line in to the hull. I used a 7/32 drill bit, and it's just slightly smaller than the tube, so the tube itself is going to create a watertight seal. So the water exit is a 1/8 diameter by about 3/4 inch long rivet, poppet rivet, and I found a scrap piece of plastic, had a small hole in it, so I drilled it out to match the diameter of the poppet rivet. And I'm going to crazy glue that on the inside of the hull, and it'll give it a little more support. So we got the poppet rivet glued on for the water exit. Gives it a nice finished look. And as you can see inside, that piece of plastic is crazy glued on and gives the poppet rivet a little extra strength. So I made a waterproof container for the speed control. Speed control, they say, is waterproof, but the last one I had, it started to rust at the connections where the wires are soldered onto the circuit board. So I opted to put it in a container and silicone around the wires and everything. It doesn't have to be exactly watertight, but you do get water in these boats, and this will keep whatever is splashing around off of it anyways.